Broadcasting live from Jackson Estate in Chicago's Loop, it's Radio DePaul Sports and Entertainment.
You're listening to RDSE, where sports and showbiz meet.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSE, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons, and we are here for the final show of freshman year and the final show of the spring quarter. Just want to say thank you to everybody that has joined in listening throughout the year. Shout out to all the RDSE family here, and let's just get right into it. I mean, since the last show, we have a lot to talk about. First, Knicks get eliminated, Pacers on to the finals. Game one of the finals, which was last night. And, surprisingly, the Orlando Magic rebrand. We'll start with the Orlando Magic rebrand. So, obviously, it's not a crazy change that they really went through. I mean, I think it is a pretty decent rebrand. I like the jerseys, super clean. Outside of the black one, I don't like the stripe kind of across the chest that's angled. I think it looks a little funny. But other than that, I think the jerseys are super clean. The white and the blue ones. Love that they brought the pinstripes back. Pinstripes have always been something amazing in basketball and just a lot of sports in general, even baseball. But, yeah, the logo is a little funky. Don't like that they went back to being inside a basketball logo or being inside a circle. I don't like that the NBA is in that direction where so many teams are within the same realm of possibilities of what they're going to do. Everybody is a circle with their then basketball or their logo inside that circle, which, I mean, it's whatever. Logos just aren't as good as they used to be. Nothing will ever top 90s and early 2000s basketball logos, in my opinion. But I don't like that everybody is kind of on the same wavelength and the same idea. I don't like that everybody is doing a very simplistic, but I mean, the Orlando Magic rebrand is way better than the last rebrand that we saw, which was the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Utah Jazz. I don't like either one of their rebrands that they did recently. Cavs, it's not terrible. I can get used to it. I've gotten used to it. But the Utah Jazz one, the Utah Jazz one is just terrible, in my opinion, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, that is all there is really to say about the Orlando Magic rebrand. It's all right. The court looked pretty fire. Can't wait to see Paolo and Franz hooping on the brand new court. That looked pretty dope. But other than that, jerseys, all right. Kind of going back to what they used to be. I don't like the stars on the side of the shorts. I think it looks a little, goofy. And then the logo, it's whatever. I would give the logo a 4 out of 10. The jerseys, in 7.5 out of 10. Could have been an 8.5, 9 if the black. It would have been an 8 if the black jersey was just all black with the pinstripe. And then the court, I will give it an 8 because I think it's super solid and it's going to be nice to watch. The contrast isn't going to be too bad. Now, moving on to the final game of the Eastern Conference Finals, which was on Saturday. So the day after the last show, we saw the Indiana Pacers come out and beat the New York Knicks on their home court in a 125-108 victory over the New York Knicks. Indiana, throughout this game, they made a switch. They went to fully Andrew Nembhard guarding Jalen Brunson throughout the game, which I think worked perfectly. Jalen Brunson seeing that new body and the way that Andrew Nembhard defends, super physical. So is Aaron Nesmith, but Andrew Nembhard's physicality really got to Jalen Brunson throughout this game. We saw him headbutt Andrew Nembhard at one point in the fourth quarter, after a steal, and then Andrew Nemhard was giving him a little trash talk in his face, and then Jalen Brunson hit him with a headbutt. Obviously, the refs didn't see it, but Brunson got away with it a little bit right there. But this game, I mean, it was just... Excuse me? It was pretty much all Indiana throughout this game. They led every single quarter of this game. And, I mean, New York did show signs of fighting back. They kept it close throughout the first half, but that third quarter, they got outscored by 11, and it just went downhill from there. Pacers, the whole game, were just 94 feet of ball pressure on anybody that was getting the ball, especially on Jalen Brunson, and they really limited him getting opportunities to bring the ball up by having Andrew Nemhard just press up on him so high it was forcing other guys to have to bring the ball up, which it wasn't a big deal, but you could definitely see that it was frustrating Jalen Brunson, and it was getting him out of his rhythm. In this game, he shot 8 for 18, 2 for 7 from the three-point line. And he had 7 points in the first quarter, 3 for 7. Now, HaliBurton was pretty decent in this game, had 21 points, 9 for 17, 13 assists. So he was a little bit more aggressive in this game than he was in Game 5. Still wasn't to the level of aggressiveness that a lot of people would want to see, but he had 13 assists. And the biggest thing with Tyrese HaliBurton in this game was just getting himself into a position where he could make plays and having 2 feet in the paint, driving to the paint, then kicking out, getting guys open. That was the biggest thing. Pacers shot 17 for 33 from the three-point line this game. So just shot lights out, 51.5%. And biggest thing for the Knicks, really bad three-point shooting night. And 17 for 26 from the free throw line was just nothing you want to see. That's a recipe for disaster when you're playing a team like the Indiana Pacers. Some news came out that Karl Anthony Towns was frustrating a lot of the New York Knicks players and coaching staff from his pure hustle and heart, which I could definitely see all throughout this series. And also that was partially why I was calling for Tom Thibodeau to be fired. And look what happened. Tibbs was fired a couple days ago, and now the Knicks are looking for a brand new coach. Now, for the Knicks, I thought Tibbs should have been fired. He's had multiple collapses in the playoffs from his coaching decisions. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a winning coach. But for the Knicks, he did bring them back out of the dark days of Marcus Morris, Emmanuel Mudiay, Noah Vonleh. He brought them out of those times and got them to the playoffs for 4 or 5 straight years. So Tibbs did his job. I think he's he's a great floor raiser for a team. He'll get you somewhere that you want to get to that isn't the NBA Finals. Tibbs has never been to the NBA Finals in his career. He's had some really strong teams. He's had to battle against some really strong teams. But I just don't think Tibbs can get you to the point of winning a championship. That isn't... And now, he might go somewhere new this coming offseason or in a couple years. But we'll see then. But I just think when you have a lineup with Cat, Jalen Brunson, Mikal, OG, Josh Hart, all these guys. But also the biggest thing with Tibbs is he doesn't command his players as much as I think a lot of other coaches would do. Karl Anthony Towns, with a lot of these silly fouls that he gives up, a lot of coaches are not going to deal with that. I think Tibbs was kind of just he wasn't loud enough. He didn't take the vocal leadership of what a coach should do, and because these silly fouls should have been handled in the first month of the NBA season. You shouldn't have to still be dealing with this in the NBA playoffs with a chance to go into the NBA Finals. That's not something you should be dealing with, and it came to bite them. And Karl-Anthony Towns obviously was a little banged up the last couple of games of the series against Indiana, but there was a lot of hustle plays I saw that he did not give any sort of hustle or heart. I mean, Pascal Siakam was just running out on missed shots, and Karl-Anthony Towns will be at the top of the key, but he's just waiting for somebody to get an offensive rebound so he can get another shot up instead of guarding Pascal Siakam, who leaks out and gets a wide-open layup or forces you to foul him on a layup because you're not in positioning. But I think it's on Karl-Anthony Towns and not taking the accountability and the leadership that you're the star player. You're the anchor to this defense when Mitchell Robinson's not in the game. You have to take that assignment of running out and guarding Pascal Siakam. But also, Tibbs has to hold his players accountable and say, Karl-Anthony Towns, go guard him. Stop pushing him when he's facing away from the basket. There's simple things that could have switched this whole series and whole season for the Knicks, where they could have been in the finals with a better coach, in my opinion. And yeah, Tibbs, like, Knicks fans have a connection with Tibbs, but you have to take that risk of getting rid of Tibbs if you want to get over the hump. I think Mike Malone is an amazing possibility. Obviously, some people were talking about Jay Wright, old Villanova guy. He's pretty much said that he is not coming back to basketball, and especially not coaching in the NBA. Rick Pitino was highlighted as somebody that they could look at. He's already said that he's not going to even amuse the possibility of coming back to the Knicks. Dave Bliss, who I believe is the OKC Thunder top assistant coach, obviously he's going to be on the market with how dominant they were this season. And there's some other guys that you can look at. Taylor Jenkins, maybe. I've heard from a Knicks fan that they still want that defensive-minded culture that Tibbs brought, which I think is 100% believable and something that they should continue to look for. But also, there's also a thing with, if you have such good defensive players, you have OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, even Miles McBride. All these guys are defensive-minded guys. The biggest thing is one of them just has to take that lead role of being the leader on the defensive end. And I think even if you go an offensive-minded coach's direction, that coach has to put that into OG. OG needs to be more vocal on the defensive end, and Mikal needs to be more vocal. They need to have a leader on the defensive end. They have their leader on the offensive end, which is Jalen Brunson, and sometimes even Cat. But on the defensive end, they don't have a leader, which is something that they need to figure out, and they need to put into somebody's head that they need to take that accountability and just get after people. Karl-Anthony Towns, you're letting this guy leak out? Get on him. OG Anunoby, get on him. Look him in the face and say, what are you doing, Cat? There's no reason this should be happening. Mikal Bridges, you should not be letting Tyrese Halliburton backdoor you. Mitchell Robinson, keep doing what you're doing. Keep giving us energy. That's what you need from a leader. You don't need a Draymond Green type leader, but you need somebody that is going to hold people accountable. And I think that's something that OG Anunoby could become. It's just he has to take that step in that direction, and he has to have a coach that's going to push him to do that. Tibbs did not do that. I think a Mike Malone could definitely do that. We've seen guys. Nikola Jokic isn't an amazing defender. He holds guys accountable on both the offensive end and the defensive end. They need somebody like that in New York. Mike Malone, Obviously, he's not the defensive-minded coach that some of the other options are, or Tibbs, but their championship run, they were middle-of-the-pack defense. And the biggest thing, Karl Anthony Towns is kind of on the same wavelength of Nikola Jokic, if not even better than Nikola Jokic on the defensive end, in my opinion. Just having the fact that he's learned under some really good defensive players like Rudy Gobert and not like Jaden McDaniels. He's kind of been in that. He's in a position where he's been on defensive teams. He can defend. Nikola Jokic can also defend, but I think Cat could be a better defender than Nikola Jokic. It's just about having him 100% hustle, 100% heart, 100% everything on the defensive end of the ball. And I think Mike Malone could 100% do that. I mean, they were 15th in the league when they won the NBA championship. I believe the Knicks were 11th that year in defensive rating. And you can't tell me that this New York Knicks team has better defenders or has worse defenders than that Nuggets team that won the championship. That Nuggets team was pretty much KCP, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, and Christian Braun. Those were their defenders. You can look at the New York Knicks and say they have that same recipe. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Miles McBride, Josh Hart. They have a very well-built team. They just need a coach that's going to hold everybody accountable. And we'll see who they go after. I heard that they're requesting to interview Jason Kidd. I also saw that Ime Udoka was on the market for them. I don't know if either one of them are going to leave the position that they were in. Jason Kidd obviously played for the Knicks, coached in Brooklyn. But, I mean, Dallas is in a win-now situation, and they want to keep their coach. Houston Rockets, they're building a culture there. Ime brought them from a lottery team to the second seed in the Western Conference. I don't see either one of them going. If you really want to go defensive-minded, Taylor Jenkins is on the market. He's really a defensive-minded guy. He never really got over the hump with the Grizzlies, though. But you could go that way. I just think Mike Malone, there's no reason why the Knicks shouldn't interview him, and there's no reason why the Knicks should look at anybody else and say that they are a better option than Mike Malone. Tibbs, what he's going to do, I think he's probably going to have a year off and just chill, look at what the coaching market looks like next year, and then maybe we'll see Tibbs back again very soon. Now, just closing out the Pacers-Knicks series, I mean, Pacers, obviously, they had a couple bad games, but they continued to do what they've done all postseason long, which is win in the clutch, shoot the ball at an extremely high clip, and run in transition. That's what they did against the Knicks. It worked a couple games. It didn't work 2 games. But at the end of the day, the Pacers were able to close it out. Pascal Siakam won the Finals MVP, or Eastern Conference Finals MVP, which I 100% believe he deserved. I know Tyrese Haliburton had a couple amazing games in this series, but Pascal was the only consistent offensive weapon they've had all postseason long. Tyrese Haliburton goes through these spurts where he's amazing, but then he'll have a game like Game 5 where he only shoots 7 shots. Pascal, you know where you're getting from him. And he's also a pretty solid defender. He's not an amazing defender, but he can hold his own on the defensive end, and he does all the dirty work for the Pacers at that forward position next to Miles Turner, battling with guys like Cat, Mitchell Robinson down low, and holding his own. So I believe Pascal. And I saw this Instagram post from a couple days ago, and it was something that, like, I hope Pascal Siakam doesn't get lost in history. And I've really been thinking about that for, I think, a week or two on just how important Pascal Siakam has been to both teams that he's been on. I mean, he's a G League Finals MVP, won a championship with the Toronto Raptors, being a key contributor to that team, comes to Indiana, makes a Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row, and now they're in the NBA Finals. Pascal Siakam is a super, he's probably one of the best people you could put next to a superstar. Or he could be he's probably the best second fiddle in the NBA, which is, it's crazy to think because there is a lot of really amazing second guys, wing guys, but I really think Pascal Siakam is up there, and he has a conversation for one of the best. But we're going to talk about the finals in a couple minutes. But yeah, Pascal Siakam, just hope he doesn't get lost in history. Most improved player, I believe. Yeah, I mean, he's such an amazing player. Closing out the Pacers-Knicks series. Knicks going to go in the offseason. I think they've already made their big move. Obviously, Giannis Antetokounmpo is on the market this summer, or questioning where he's going to be, and you could look at maybe the Knicks make a big-time swing and try to go get Giannis, and you move on from Cat and McHale or Cat and Josh Hart or somebody. I don't think that's the move you make. I think you stick with your core, you bring in some bench guys, and you bring in a brand-new coach with a brand-new mindset, and that's going to hold your guys accountable. That's exactly what I think the Knicks should do. But a Knicks off-season guide will be coming pretty soon. So if you haven't listened to the Spurs offseason guide with my boy Eric, if you haven't listened to the Lakers offseason guide with my guy Joe, we got a Warriors one coming up with my guy Charles, and then we have a Knicks one with the boy Daniel Urlacher coming pretty soon. Not exactly sure yet, just due to the schedule with end of the year, moving back home for the summer, but it'll be coming soon. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back, and the rest of this show is going to be talking about Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll be right back here on RDSE. This has been Beyond the Scoreboard, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons.
Hey, it's Dibs, your favorite demon in a blue suit. You're listening to Radio DePaul Sports, the student voice of your DePaul Blue Demon.
Campbell to Stonewall. Stonewall driving to the rim, goes up, gets it to fall, and one.
Oh, Max Strus brings down the house.
Radio DePaul Sports, your home for Blue Demon basketball.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSE, and I'm your host, Michael Lyons. And like I said before we went to commercial break, the rest of the show is going to be talking about Game 1 of the NBA Finals and what to expect from Game 2, Game 3, and I believe maybe even Game 4 before the next time I will be filming just about the NBA Finals. Obviously, Game 1, 111-110 victory for the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese HaliBurton continues his moment, his desire, his strength of being the most clutch player in this year's NBA playoffs and arguably in the NBA, in my opinion. I thought prior to the Knicks series that he was going to take the crown of being the best clutch player in the league, and I believe he did, over Jalen Brunson, who was named Clutch Player of the Year. I think that's Tyrese HaliBurton. But obviously, we saw him hit that 21-foot midi over Cason Wallace to take the lead with 0.3 seconds left. Now, going into this game, from the jump, obviously this is probably the worst game both teams are going to play. There was obviously a lot of nerves from so many people. I mean, Shea had a couple good looks that he just couldn't get. J-Dub, Chet. I mean, it was just a very nerve-wracking start to the game for a lot of these teams, or for both of these teams, and I believe the nerves for OKC continued throughout Game 1, whereas the Pacers shut down those nerves after the first half. obviously, Andrew Nembhard is starting on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the finals. Nembhard started on Shai, and Neesmith started on J-Dub. Obviously, it's kind of a little bit of a switch up. Obviously, Aaron Neesmith guarded a lot of Jalen Brunson last series, but probably the best game they had against Jalen Brunson was in Game 6 when Andrew Nembhard was locking up Jalen Brunson. So they made that switch. And also, to start the game, the Thunder were the first team to make a switch and make a change to their lineup, which obviously, yeah, I mean, it's whatever. Like, you make your switches, you make your changes because you believe that it's going to help you. But when you're a 68-win team playing a 50-win team and you've been the most dominant team all year long, you shouldn't be the team making the first change. You should be forcing the Pacers to make the first change in their lineup. Obviously, that change was seeing Cason Wallace in the starting lineup over Isaiah Hartenstein, which is weird in a couple reasons. I think, first off, Cason Wallace is an amazing player, but if you're going to make that change for iHeart to be out of the starting lineup, I think Alex Caruso then has to move into the starting lineup over Cason Wallace, just from the pure fact of Alex Caruso having finals experience and being in the moment, and I think he's a better defender than Cason Wallace at this point. And both of them didn't shoot well in Game 1. Now, obviously, Cason Wallace is a little bit better shooter than Alex Caruso, but it didn't show up. Cason Wallace shot 3 for 9 this game, over 3 from the three-point line, had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and 6 points, and a steal and a block. So he wasn't terrible, but you want a little bit more from your starting 2-guard next to Shai, next to Lou Dort, next to J-Dub. You want to get somebody in there that can relieve some pressure, and I think having Cason Wallace on the court at the start of the game added more pressure to Shai because he wasn't hitting his shots. Shai had to really do a lot of self-creation, which Shai, he doesn't back down from that. But first game of his first NBA Finals of his career, obviously there's some nerves. Even if you're the coolest, calmest player of all time, you're still going to have those nerves. And we saw that with Shai. Now, iHeart only played 17 minutes this game, which was very surprising to me. I thought he was going to be one of the biggest contributors to the Oklahoma City Thunder, just basing it off of his pure rebounding, that when he was on the court, he had 9 rebounds in 17 minutes. And let me just look at when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the court, OKC out-rebounded the Pacers 18-6. 6 offensive rebounds to 4 offensive rebounds. When Isaiah Hartenstein was off the court, the Pacers out-rebounded the Thunder 45-28. I think it was just a pure... I just think Mark Daigneault just did too much to start this game. He is doing too smart of things that it's harming him. And I think iHeart getting moved to the bench was that too smart of a move. I think you kind of just rock out with what you've been doing all postseason long. iHeart has been amazing. Him and Chet have looked pretty good next to each other. And you just kind of got to let that go. iHeart can match up pretty well with Miles Turner. And then Chet has the length on Pascal Siakam. And then you could have J-Dub or Cason Wallace or Alex Caruso or Lou Dort roaming or Shai roaming, just causing issues. I think it put them back a little bit. And obviously to start the game, they were, I don't want to say dominant, but they were forcing the Pacers to feel even more uncomfortable along with the nerves. First thing I saw from the Pacers was outside of Nemhard starting on Shea and Neesmith on J-Dub. Two buckets came early in this game from Pascal Siakam on switches. Now, that's going to be something that the Pacers are going to have to continue to look for. When Pascal sets that screen, if they're going to switch, Pascal's going to have a smaller guy on him. You have to feed him the ball, especially if it's a Cason Wallace, if it's a Alex Caruso. Now, obviously, it's not an easy move. It's not going to come easy, but if you can get a Cason Wallace switch, if you can get a Shea switch, continue to go at that. And Siakam, 2 early buckets early, then got fouled on another one. I just think that is a recipe that the Pacers have to continue to rely on and continue to attack if the Thunder are going to switch everything. But then OKC throughout this game, super active hands, especially in the first half. First half, Indy had 19 turnovers. Actually, I believe they had 20, I think. They had 24 turnovers total. 19 or 20 in the first half. And partially it was from active hands. Pacers, big man like Turner, Bryant, Toppin. Toppin looked so bad to start this game. He had 3 turnovers so early, but then he really settled into the game. He shot 6 for 9 from the field, 5 for 8 from the three-point line after only making 4 in the whole postseason. But yeah, OKC, they did their job in the first half of causing turnovers, but the biggest thing, off of those 19 turnovers, they only had 9 points off of them, which just shows that even though Indy was struggling on the offensive end, their defense was still there. And that is something that the Pacers have continued to show throughout the postseason, that they can be in a tough position, but their defense is still there. It's going to be active. It's going to force you into tough shots. They're not going to back down. They're not going to settle for anything on the defensive end. And I think they did an amazing job at just keeping the game close. The largest lead was 15, and that came in the fourth quarter. But throughout this game, it just felt like it was 10-point lead, 10-point lead, 10-point lead, 6-point lead, 10-point lead, 8-point lead, 11-point lead. Like, it never got out of hand, even though this game should have easily been a blowout if the Thunder were hitting their shots. Now, this doesn't mean that the Pacers can have another game of 24, 25 turnovers. They're going to have to cut those down, which they did in the second half. 5 total turnovers in the second half, I believe. Just let me fact check that. They had 25 turnovers throughout the whole game. 20 in the first half, 5 in the second half. And 3 of those 5 turnovers is just an excellent defensive play. We had the Miles Turner travel, which was just a really solid defensive play by, I believe Chet was on him on that play and just forced him to travel. Somebody got a charge, and then 2 of them were bad. The TJ McConnell throw up on the inbound pass when it was going to be a turnover no matter what, but that was a bad turnover because it led to that J-Dub dunk that put him up by 15. The other one was, there was another one that I just completely blanked on, but 3 of them were just really good defensive plays. The other 2 were really bad, just poor execution on the offensive end by Indy, but they really flipped it. And I mean, Rick Carlisle in the halftime was like, we have 19 turnovers, but we've only allowed 9 points off of turnovers. Just can't be having short, shallow bounce passes to the bigs. When the bigs catch the ball, keep it up high. That's one of the biggest things that you learn from an early age playing basketball, but then you have to get readjusted to that when you play a team that's so active like the Oklahoma City Thunder. Another big thing in this game, 18 of 39 from the three-point line was Indy. continuing to have their amazing shooting throughout the postseason, and this is going to still be key because OKC likes to crash when somebody attacks the paint. If they're going to get open shots, they're going to have to continue to make them. I'm still talking about the first quarter. Lou Dort, in my opinion, was probably the second best player for the Thunder this game. I know he only had 15, 5 for 9 for the three-point line. But this first half, there was a possession where he had 2 offensive rebounds and a tip out within 1 minute. And it was amazing to watch. Biggest thing I saw from OKC, which is something that they're going to have to continue to do. Indiana being a really transition-heavy team, running in transition, getting early buckets. OKC walled up. They were not allowing what the Pacers relied on a little bit in the past series, which was Siakam leak out. Whoever shoots the ball is getting back if they shoot a three-point shot. But they always have somebody back, and a lot of the time they have 3 people back in transition, which is walling up, and they're just keeping the Pacers from getting early buckets and just keeping that momentum that they want to play with. OKC was swarming the ball when it touched the paint. Obviously, that's something that they've continued to do. First quarter ended. Shea had 12, 5 for 12 from the field. He wasn't efficient in this game, but he was still getting to his shots. 38 points in your first ever finals game is super impressive. On almost 50% shooting, he shot 14 for 30. But 3 for 6 from the three-point line, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, 3 assists, but did have 2 turnovers. But I think Shea was super aggressive this game, and he's going to have to continue to do that, but also look to get some of his guys involved. I think he would have had a little bit more assists if his team started hitting their shots, but a lot of guys struggled this game from the field or from the three-point line. Alex Caruso shot 1 for 4. J-Dub hit 1 for 4. Casey Walls 0 for 3. Chet 0 for 1. And then somebody else that was big, Isaiah Hartenstein. I still don't understand why he didn't have as many minutes as he did or as he should. He had 7 points in the first quarter. He ended with 9. 7 points in the first quarter, 2 for 2 shooting, and he was getting offensive rebounds. That was the biggest thing with this is, and another big thing with this Pacers in the rebounding category that came up that I was talking about, how Isaiah Hartenstein, that was the only time they out-rebounded the Pacers is when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the court. They went small ball at the end of that game with no Chet or Isaiah Hartenstein. That was one of the worst decisions I think Mark Daigneault has made. I just did not like that decision. I thought you have to have somebody big on the court. Pascal Siakam is not a big, but he is going to punish a lot of people on the Thunder. And just offensive rebounding wise, Pascal Siakam he doesn't give up on a play. That's one of the biggest things with Pascal Siakam is he just does not give up. And that's why he's such an amazing player. He's been a winning player ever since he's been in the league. And he's going to continue to be if he is always attacking the basket and getting to the boards. But also, with Isaiah Hartenstein on the court, the OKC Thunder shot 8 for 14 from the three-point line, or the Pacers shot 8 for 14 from the three-point line, whereas when Chet was on the court, they shot 6 for 19. So that is something big. The Pacers were much more efficient from the three-point line when Ihart was on the court. So there's going to have to be a balance of getting Ihart on the court with people that can surround the three-point shot, because he's going to get his rebounds. That's the biggest thing. He's going to secure the rebounds. It's just the others have to be aware of where everybody else is on the court. Now the second quarter started. Something I saw, OKC really pressed Indy up high, which the Knicks also did, and limited a lot of their offense, the Pacers, in the last series, which was pressing up high, and they had to set screens basically at the half-court line, which is always troublesome for a lot of teams. It gets you out of your rhythm. It slows down the game, especially with a team that, like the Pacers, that want to play fast. But Indy was in the bonus with 6 minutes left in the second quarter, and then Indy has to pass and keep the ball high for bigs. That's something that I'm going to continue to say throughout this finals. Pass high, keep high for Miles Turner, Siakam, Thomas Bryant, Obi Toppin, whoever's on the court. Pass high for the guards, keep high for the bigs. You cannot throw these low passes when Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, and Lou Dort are on the court. But another thing, Indy, their defense just did not give up. Indy forced a lot of tough shots. Sometimes the Thunder were hitting it. A lot of the times they weren't. That's why Indy just kept themselves in the game, even having 20 turnovers in the first half. I think the Thunder shot 18 more shots than them in the first half. They just stuck to their game, and they didn't get down on themselves. Every 50-50 ball felt like it was going OKC's way. After the first half, Shea had 19 and 8 for 18 from the field, but only had 1 assist. J-Dub had 7, 2 for 7. Ihart did not score. The Thunder were 7 for 18 from the three-point line in the first half. They had 6 offensive rebounds. They forced 19 turnovers, but they only had 9 points off of those turnovers. Tyrese Halliburton, who I feel like I haven't talked about at all in this segment of talking about the finals, only had 6 points in the first half, 2 for 5 from the field, 3 assists, but 3 turnovers. TJ McConnell kept this game close for the Indiana Pacers. He had 9 points, 4 for 5 shooting in the first half. Siakam, 8 points, 3 for 6 from the field. And they shot 8 for 19 from the three-point line. They had 4 rebounds, and they only forced 4 turnovers. 15 more turnovers they had in the first half, and they were down by 12 at the break. If you can continue to keep yourself within 15 and going into the clutch with this Pacers team, they are always going to think they're going to win when it gets to that point. Now, start of the third quarter, this is something that is also going to be key in this series, is the Indiana bigs have to set really strong, hard screens to free up Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, TJ, anybody that's on the court. They have to set really good, hard screens because Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, they're going to fight over those screens. And they're going to blow up screens. Those are some really big physical guards, and they're really strong. You have to have a strong base and continue to be strong throughout the screen. Because getting Tyrese Halliburton open even a little bit against this Thunder team that closes gaps so quickly is going to be super important, because if you can get a really hard screen on Cason Wallace or Lou Dort, gets Tyrese Halliburton a little bit of a break, that's going to make your job a little bit easier as well. Because Chet, J-Dub, whoever was on the screener, is going to have to step up a little bit, and that's what they do. They step up, they close that gap. Then Tyrese Halliburton is going to have to make some tough passes to Miles Turner, to Thomas Bryant, whoever's on that role, but you can make your job a little bit easier. Now, HaliBurton, he's going to have to continue to attack off the dribble and force some collapses. I think he was better in the second half throughout this. Had 3 assists in the first half. Ended the game with 6 assists. He only had 14 points this game, though. Shot 6 for 13, though. But OKC really limited him getting the ball, which in this game was troublesome for them because he is their ball handler. But Andrew Nembhard has done an amazing job in game one, especially, of just being a super solid ball handler. Everybody knows he can handle the ball, but he was making some really tough, difficult plays that some guys just can't make. And that is such a luxury to have next to Tyrese HaliBurton, who is one of the best handlers and facilitators in the NBA. OKC, though, they did their job. They wanted to make the game super ugly. They didn't want to be playing any sort of pretty basketball against a Pacers team that shoots the ball lights out. But they forced the turnovers, forced some tough shots, but the Pacers still stuck with their game. That's the biggest thing I'm going to continue saying. And then in the third quarter is when Tyrese Halliburton really started to become a little bit more aggressive. There was a couple plays where he rejected the screen, went the opposite way of the screen after having basically all postseason long, he's really relied on screens. This game, he rejected those screens because he knew the guards were going to blow up the plays and got to a couple spots, hit a couple mid-range shots, got him going, and got his confidence for that final shot that he hit to end the game. Indiana, though, after having, I think, 22 turnovers going into the fourth, they were still holding OKC to 40% shooting. But it just felt like they couldn't get any closer than 6 points. They would go on runs, get it to 6, then the OKC Thunder would just come back and go on another run. Shea had 28 going into the fourth. Dort had 15. They had 3 turnovers in the quarter. 5 for 11 from the three-point line. But then Tyrese Halliburton had 10 going into the fourth. Siakam had 16. They shot 3 for 6 from the three-point line, and they had 6 offensive rebounds. So quarter 3 was much closer, and the Pacers ended up winning that quarter, 31-28, and then the fourth quarter came in. J-Dub started the quarter really strong. I liked what I saw from him, but then the Pacers kind of shut him down a little bit. When Shea and Tyrese were both out of the game, OKC extended that lead, which is going to be something that they're going to have to watch. Rick Carlisle's going to have to watch is that how long could Tyrese be on the bench and how much is it going to affect us? And then Indiana, just like I've said a lot, they just continued to fight. They continued to be playing their game, and it worked out. Clutch got there. 12-2 run for Indy right before clutch time started. Brought it within, I believe, 4 because they were down by 15. 12-2 run. 4 or 5 points is what it was looking at going into the clutch time. And then 10-2 run getting to down to get Indiana within that 1 point with 30 seconds left. So to end this game, Indy went on some crazy runs, but they were locking up on OKC. And then obviously we get to Shea got to his spot, but Andrew Nembhard played some pretty solid defense and forced the miss out of Shea. And then Tyrese Halliburton runs down the court, hits that midi with 0.3 seconds left, and what a play. Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, we got to give him a nickname now. I heard Richard Jefferson was calling him the Moment. I thought that was pretty decent, but Tyrese Halliburton is going to need a nickname after this postseason run. Now, some other things. Shea struggled against the strong defenders of Indiana in this game. They shot 3 for 9. Shea shot 3 for 9 against Andrew Nembhard and 2 for 8 against Aaron Nesmith. That is going to be something to watch out for the games to come. Now, Game 1 recap is over. What I think is going to happen. This is going to be a tough game for So I said before that this was probably the worst game both teams have played, or what we could expect to be their worst games of the finals, which I think is 100% what's going to happen. Now, OKC, are they going to come out in Game 2 and dominate the Pacers? That's going to be the biggest thing. If they can continue to force turnovers like they did in Game 1, this is going to be a super long series for the Pacers, and you're going to have to shut down the faucet when it comes to turnovers. Now, I think the Pacers, Rick Carlisle being their head coach, I trust him to handle those turnovers. I think a lot of them were nerves, and this is going to be a super fun finals to watch. I said OKC in 5 before, but I think I'm already wrong. Now, obviously, OKC being such a dominant team could just come out and win the next 4 games in a row. But this could look like a series that could go to 7. Indiana stealing one on the road when they had 25 turnovers. This is just going to be such a fun series. And hopefully we can get Tyrese HaliBurton to be a little bit more aggressive throughout the game. But I think OKC did a really good job at eliminating him and eliminating his touches. So that's going to be also really big. Who can slow down the star of both teams? And another thing, Indiana, Rick Carlisle has gone this whole season without calling a lot of plays for Pascal Siakam. I think you have to start calling some plays for Pascal Siakam. He's the best. He is the best half-court player they have. You have to get him the ball and get him the ball with a purpose more often. Now, also, with that Tyrese HaliBurton shot, the biggest shot before that, in my opinion, which was bigger than the Tyrese HaliBurton shot, was that Andrew Nembhard shot on Shea. That tween, crossover, pound dribble, step back. That was an amazing shot. That is going to be on his highlight reel for the rest of his career. He is also going to be big in the shot creation that he's also going to be able to bring. They just have to stick with their game, continue to fight, and I just think they're going to. OKC in Game 2 and Game 3, they're going to have to come out with a vengeance and something that we haven't seen before. They haven't had to come from behind, really. So, hopefully, Mark Daigneault limits the smart choices and just plays how OKC has played all year long. I think iHeart is going to deserve a lot more minutes, and I think you go back to that starting lineup. Now, obviously, it's really bad to see when the team that should be winning this postseason or winning this series makes the first change and then makes the second change. I don't look at the Pacers as having to make any changes. I look at the Thunder as having to make changes. Now, Pacers, obviously, maybe some more minutes for Benedict Mathurin. He had a couple really big plays. He had a block. Lou Dort had a really nasty block. I just want to give him some praise for that. That was nasty. I think it might have been on Aaron Nesmith or Benedict Mathurin. But Benedict Mathurin had a nasty block on J-Dub. It's just going to be about which role players are going to play better outside of Tyrese HaliBurton. Who is going to step up and take over this postseason? Is it going to be Tyrese, Shea, Pascal, or J-Dub? I think Pascal and J-Dub are the biggest factors in this series, and I think Pascal Siakam could easily find himself winning Finals MVP again. So, this has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSE, and this is the final show of the year, but we will be back next year. I want to thank everybody for listening in, and for one final time, this has been Beyond the Scoreboard, presented by RDSE, and I am your host, Michael Lyons.